I am one of the pediatric oncologists at St. Louis Children's Hospital and faculty at Washington University. My research is looking to see if we can broaden the usefulness of a drug that's already used for a subset of acute myeloid leukemia or AML patients. So that drug is all-trans retinoic acid or ATRA. Specifically for me, I'm interested in leukemias that are driven by MLL rearrangements, which commonly occur in two really difficult to treat pediatric leukemia subgroups.
So Will is a very outdoorsy kind of kid, so he loves doing anything outdoors, always has. He'd rather be riding his bike or playing basketball out in the streets or doing anything that he can to get outside than to be sitting on a couch. We were on vacation. He tested positive for COVID. We had been passing COVID around the family earlier the month before, and so I didn't think anything of it. He just had your typical COVID symptoms.
At a certain point, we ended up going to the emergency room because we just needed this to be cared for a little bit more. But we were convinced it was COVID, and it didn't take long that evening for us to find out through blood tests that they suspected that in addition to COVID, that he had acute myeloid leukemia. From then until they started chemo, which was pretty quickly, maybe the second day, but it was so fast and it was such a blur because they wanted to get this started.
So most patients, they get their diagnosis, they get their first cycle of chemo, they're in the hospital for about a month, and then they go home and they come back about a week later to get the next cycle. Will was really sick. Coming into his diagnosis, already had an autoimmune disease of his liver. So the trial that he was a part of was to see if we could decrease side effects of chemotherapy. So he got one drug that is basically a combination of two drugs that we historically have given, but put into a certain delivery method where it should not affect like his liver and other organs and just target his bone marrow. So Will was a part of that study. Luckily, after one cycle of chemotherapy, showed no evidence of leukemia anymore. So then you still go on to get more chemotherapy to make sure that it doesn't come back. But Will was able to get 4 more cycles, so 5 total, as opposed to some patients, if they don't respond, they have to go on to get bone marrow transplants or, other chemotherapy to deal with relapses and things like that. Pedal the Cause money has made it so that I can do these experiments and get the preliminary data I need to get the NIH funding to go on and be independent. I don't have to say, what's the cheapest way to do this experiment or whatever. I can say, what's the best way to do this experiment to get the data that I need to get the right answer. And with the Pedal the Cause funding, I have the money to support doing the research the right way the first time.
Join me at Pedal the Cause on September 23rd and 24th as we pedal together to help create a world without cancer.